Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Universal God Message of Peace. We have Dr. Zahir and Rabbi Wiseman, and I'm Lale Tunsa. And today we're going to be, Dr. Zahir will be talking about his perspective and understanding on the art and etiquette of argument from an Islamic perspective. Following on from last week when Rabbi Wiseman started this topic off last week, which was very good. So over to you, Dr. Zahir.
Thank you very much. I begin in the name of the God whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. Frankly, what Rabbi Wiseman mentioned in the last session should suffice for a proper presentation statement on what should be the way, behavior, etiquette while communicating about serious matters of life, as serious as religion is. I might say a few things which could be termed as somewhat repetition of what he had said, but from the Islamic text, Quranic text. But then I'll try to mention a few things which would explain why these etiquette, which are so very clear, understandable, are ignored and forgotten when we communicate, particularly in religious matters. So first, what are the principles or guidance? What is the guidance mentioned in the Quran regarding communication? The first thing that needs to be mentioned is that the Quran very clearly mentions that when you have to talk about God's message, when you have to invite others to the path of your Lord, Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah, you do it wisely, intelligently. Wal maw'izatil hasana. And if you were to present a speech, deliver a lecture, it should be done in a good way, without insulting others, without unnecessarily causing others to get disturbed, provoked, and in a nice way. وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ. And if at all there comes a stage situation when you have to discuss and debate, it should be done in a polite, in a hasana way, good way, a way that is not in the category of, a debate where people are blaming each other, using negative language against each other. It should be done properly. It should be done in a way that continues to maintain respect for each other. Then we find that the same principle is mentioned in the Quran when the Almighty talks about Moses and Aaron, when the Almighty sent them to deliver the message of God to as tyrant, unreasonable a person as Pharaoh. The Quran says the Almighty told them, "Qulu qula lahu qawlan layyina." Talk to him, speak to him in a polite way, so that he might understand. You never know. So, we have to be always polite. We have to be always doing things in a wise manner, as Rabbi Wiseman mentioned, understanding each other, presenting your views with arguments, and that's about it. We have also been asked to talk about matters where we mutually agree when we start a discussion. I mean, if your starting point is points of disagreement, departure, and you are using very strong language against the other person, the other party, then there is no way that the discussion is going to be fruitful, helpful, and a reason, a cause of mutual benefit. I mean, the entire idea is that, you know, you think you have got something right, you've got the truth. Likewise, the other person has the same understanding. That's why normally we discuss with each other. So we start from points of commonalities and then move to differences and do it politely, wisely. Uh, we will be able to make progress. Uh, the Quran emphasizes the fact that the people the Almighty likes are the ones who istamiul qawl, who listen carefully to what others are saying. وَاتَّبَعُوا مَا أَحْسَنَ, and then they follow and pursue what is good in it. So, in other words, what the Almighty is saying is that when somebody is talking to you, listen to him carefully, attentively, and whatever is good in it, pick it from there and pursue it, follow it. The Quran also mentions that if the other person that you are talking to, dealing with, turns out to be unreasonable, impolite, the Quran tells the person who is dealing with God's message, itfa billati hi ahsan, that he should respond to something that has been thrown at him in the form of some negative remark, some evil. He should respond with something that is good. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ, for you don't know the one with whom you had enmity, كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ, he may turn out to be your good friend, real friend. But the Quran goes on to say that it's only possible for those people who are patient, and it's only possible for those people who are very lucky. That is, they have trained themselves in a way that they become so good in the eyes of the Almighty that they're not provoked by the negative attitude of the other person. Maybe I can mention a few other things from the Quranic text to suggest that the Almighty wants us to be fair, polite, open while talking to others. But I would like to mention a few things now to find out for myself. I mean, I keep wondering that with these principles quite clearly mentioned, why is it that I find many religious people, practicing religious people, not following these instructions? They're not bothered about the norms, the etiquette of discussion. One reason I did mention in my presentation regarding some other topic that there are many religious Muslims who consider all non-Muslims as kafirs, which really means that at the very outset, when you are having a discussion with somebody whom you have labeled, categorized as a kafir, you actually, as a consequence, decided that the person is evil. I mean, he is no good in the eyes of God. He is knowingly, deliberately uh, rejecting the truth. So, I mean, how can a person with that kind of a mindset be able to talk to the other person in a polite manner, respecting the other view, respecting the other person, his sincerity? So that's one, I think, big problem. And that, you know, is also uh, kind of can be described in another way, that the people doubt the intentions of others. And this is a clear violation of another Quranic principle, which requires us to stay away from having negative speculation image about others. I mean, um, you don't even know what the other person is, what is his way of thinking, uh, what is his mindset, and you start imagining that the person is not just wrong in his point of view, he is ill intentioned, he is negative, and therefore there is no point in taking him seriously and in uh, doing justice with listening to him. So, I mean, if that's the kind of uh, understanding that a person has about the other person, it really is very difficult to follow any uh, etiquette norms of discussion of communication. There is another problem that I think which causes the difficulty to become even more serious and problematic, which is the mob psychology, the group psychology. You know, probably many people, if they were to be talked to on an individual basis, they might be more open. But when you are a part of a group, uh, you are influenced by the mindset of others. Uh, you are pressurized by the presence of others. You are worried about the reaction of others. That, if you're going to be talking to some people politely, or you will be sympathetic towards them, there's going to be a backlash, and you will not be able to survive in the environment that you are a part of. There is a mention in the Quran regarding the story of Abraham, uh, where the Almighty tells us that when he, in his initial stage of putting across the message of the Almighty, was faced with the people of his nation. He had not as yet uh, migrated to Canaan, to Palestine. He was there in Iraq. Um, when he broke idols with a view to cause people to think about what they're doing. So goes the story that when he came back, there were people who said, "Who has done it? Who could be the person who could do this to our idols?" Um, and somebody pointed out that there's a young man called Abraham who used to talk about them negatively, so he might have done it. So when Abraham was asked this question, were you the one who did it? And he said that, you know, so goes the story that all idols were damaged except one, the biggest of them all. Uh, and he asked them, why don't you ask these idols of yours whom you worship? And they said, Abraham, they don't listen. And Abraham said that it's so strange that you pray to these idols, leaving your creator God, who you know can't even listen to you. So what are you doing then? The Quran tells us that at that point, people, they thought about it on at an individual level. They had this introspection and this themselves. Only God can tell that they spoke to themselves and said, well, he's right. And this is actually what happens, you know, when a truth comes to you and, you start feeling this man is making sense. The Quran mentions then that they all got together and then they started accusing him of causing harm to their gods. In other words, their collective uh, prejudice, bias, emotions, they had the better of them, and they were able to overcome the initial inclination towards acknowledging the truth. So, this collective psychology, mob psychology, is a huge problem. I mean, I can assure you that if the religious groups at odds with each other, they were not groups, and they were people who were to take their own independent decisions, uh, there would have been uh, very different results in the communication that would have taken place between those groups. Added to this mentality is the tendency amongst religious people to blindly follow their elders. This is again a huge problem. The one that I mentioned earlier was a problem created by people who are there, present, alive. Uh, in the case of blind following, the trouble is that people are actually following the path of their elders, many of whom have actually passed away. And, the emotional attachment that you have with those who've already passed away, who are actually respected, revered because of their religiosity. And, when you are a part of a culture, you find yourself emotionally attached, and you can't stay away from uh, following the same path, and it's very difficult to uh, leave the point of view that you are emotionally attached to because of your elders. So, I mean, anything new is looked down upon, is ridiculed, uh, ignored, uh, not heard, not listened to, etc. And the reason, and I think the reason is, I've thought about it, that what you call your faith, what you call your belief, is is a is basically an understanding, a perception uh, about this world, about the creator, about the design, about how things are functioning. And because we can't see it, uh, it has to be either based on arguments, or it has to be based on a traditions to which people get emotionally attached to. So that's a huge problem. I mean, people who believe in a book to be from God ignore what is mentioned in that book and go for the collective perception of what the truth is, uh, which is not permitted to be penetrated, to be broken. And the result is that when you have a communication, you find that the other party, the other person, is getting upset and is fully prepared to attack you with all the negative remarks that he can come up with. Uh, you know, this whole idea of etiquette and proper discussion is based on uh, the concept of justice, of fair play, uh, and the the trouble is that people cannot be convinced. Somehow they don't buy this argument that when you are talking to the other person and you are not giving the arguments of the other person uh, due weight, importance, then you are being unfair. And God would not accept an unjust, unfair attitude, approach, because it's against adl, it's against justice. So, the truth-seeking attitude is not considered to be a part of justice, which I'm sure all religious traditions emphasize more than most of the desirable virtues. So somehow, if proper dialogue, discussion is to be promoted amongst religious people, I think it's extremely important that we convince the religious person, individual, that in order for you to be acceptable in the eyes of God, you have to be a just and fair person. Uh, and for that, you really need to talk to the other person in a proper, fair manner, or else, your uh, success, your acceptability in his eyes is going to be um, in serious doubt. Uh, that's about it. That's what I had to say.
Okay, I have all sorts of thoughts. I mean, they're running around in my head. So can I release my thoughts?
Please do. Please do.
Okay.
That's what the purpose is.
Okay. So,
But for
So
that
first-
to happen, we need to see you.
you can't see me?
I can't.
Really?
Oh yeah. I don't know. Hold on.
Now can you see me?
Yes. Now it's
Okay.
possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
There I am. Okay. I'm here. Okay. I'm up here in a little tiny spot. I don't know why that is. So I think the settings, I don't know if to see what I think you've been, I don't know, we have to figure out that thing, but I'm up there in the little corner there. So one of the now I'm spotlighted. Okay.
Sorry, just a moment.
All right. Okay. Okay. There we go. Look at that. Okay. So one of the things that really one of the things that really struck me, and I held on to it in my head, was where you said that, we should answer the bad with the good, but for that you have to be patient, which means you also have to know yourself, right? I feel like a lot of people, they don't know themselves well enough to know that they should not even be putting themselves in this situation. if you really if you really don't have patience, right, then this is not a good job for you. Like this is not you should not be talking about religion with people if or even or not just religion, but things which are really important to people if you're not prepared to have patience and listen, and if you can't, and if you don't have emotional control, if you don't have discipline over yourself, and this is probably just something you shouldn't do. Not there's anything wrong with you, but this is, some people are patient and some people are not. And it's something to work on in yourself and to develop yourself. I think that it's important for people to kind of be honest about their kind of their qualities and say, I'm a hothead, and like putting myself in this position doesn't do me any good. It doesn't do the other person any good. I was also sure I've always been struck by that verse about Paro, about Pharaoh, right? I mean, the worst person in the world. Okay, so it's not just it's not just talking about anybody. Okay, it's talking about the person who's least likely to listen to you, has no reason to listen to you, right? I mean, they think they're God. Okay, that's okay. A person who has all the power he could possibly want, a person who thinks he's a god, a person who other people thinks he's a god. So he has absolutely no reason to listen to you. I'm going to doubt that he was admired for his personal moral characteristics. Um, and he certainly didn't come from a society that was impressive for its moral characteristics. And what does God say? God says, go talk to him nicely.
Wow.
Okay. So right. So if we're supposed to talk, so this is what we call in Jewish law, it's called a kal v'chomer argument, which means that how much more so. If in the case of a person who's so horrible, you're supposed to behave nicely and speak nicely, and how much more so in the case of a normal person who's not a pharaoh, right? Who's just a normal, who's just a normal person. I think that's I think that's very, I think it's a great example. Um, Another thing that I really love that you said, and I have to kind of think about it more. I have to kind of like let it in my brain, is the idea that this is connected to a bigger value system, and and that the way that we are the way that it's a matter of justice. That is a matter of justice, and all of these things kind of come down to a kind of one of the things, one of the, God seems to really care about a few things. Okay, justice is clearly one of them. Okay, I think there's a lot of evidence if we look at the Torah, if we look at the Quran, if we look, God really cares about justice. Okay, this is a big issue, right? He created this world, and one of the big rules is the rule of justice. And you're right, it is those kinds of behaviors are inherently unjust. And that really is the problem. It's not just, okay, I'm behaving badly, or it's not just impolite, but it's unjust, and that's a bigger deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's something really interesting to think about. And I actually have to kind of, I'm kind of inspired to kind of go back into the Jewish sources and see, like, if somebody sort of noticed that, because really it is ultimately that at the end of the day, it's really unfair. When I was talking last week, I was talking about this idea of, the desire to win, right? And once you do that, you're being totally unfair to the other person, because they're everything that they're saying is now completely immaterial to you, right? You're not listening to anything that they have to say, and it's really unjust. It's a good way to think of it. Um, I had really not thought of it that way before. I have to kind of like now kind of rethink things. There's one other thing, I'm trying to remember what it was that I had that I was holding on to. It'll come to me. So I do have a question. So I do have a question. So how did here was the, you know, oh, I remember what it was. I liked very much what you said about Abraham and the kind of collective, the kind of collective mind. I see this happen all the time. I see it happen all the time where people have I see all the time where people have some kind. Oh, hold on a second. It's my doctor. Hello. I'm fine. I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of teaching an online class. Say hello to my online class. It's okay. Yeah, everything's great. Everything's fine.
We'll be in touch.
Okay, great. Thanks. Bye-bye. He's a great guy. That's my
Good.
doctor. Okay.
Absolutely. Very good.
Then how often does that happen? Shout out to Dr. Dadgar, pride of Persia. So that's a really good point. It's happened so often that you see the light go on in somebody's eyes where they see the truth of something, but the collective will just can't bear it. And very often for the reason that you said, which is sort of like the honor that's given to tradition as opposed to truth. Tradition and truth, you know, ideally should be the same thing. Ideally, it should be identical. But in truth, we know the truth, and the truth is that it's not always the case. Things that made sense, things that may have made sense in previous situations don't necessarily make sense now. There are, of course, when it comes to cultural things, also can become enshrined as, you know, a cultural value can become enshrined as a religious value when it was never a religious value in the first place. And tradition kind of can hold on to that. And I was thinking of years ago, there was an Egyptian politician, I forget which one it was, I can't blame anybody, and he had a beautifully wrapped Quran. He had a beautiful wrapped Quran, and he held it up in the air. Excuse me. And he said, all the answers are in here. And I was sitting with a Muslim friend, and my Muslim friend said to me, he says, you know, he's right, but only if you unwrap it and read it. Is it? Okay. Yeah. And I think that that's some of the problem with tradition.
Yeah, that's
Not
right.
enough unwrapping it and reading it. It's kind of like, yes, it's good to hold the tradition in high esteem, but it's also that tradition has to be learned and has to be used and has to be applied to situations. It's not enough just to hold up the book and say all the answers are in here. So
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You know this particular point that all answers are here. A religious person makes that statement, sadly, on many occasions, because he thinks it's my book. So, you know, it's his kind of personal collective pride, which somehow uh, makes him feel good about the fact that, you know, he has a book that has answers to all the questions. It has got nothing to do with knowing the truth, seeking the truth, and following it. If you allow me, you know, I particularly, you know, I'm surprised people they don't understand the text. They don't read the text with a view to be guided, because there is a statement in the Quran which says, whenever you speak, be fair, even if it goes against your relatives. There is a mention in the Quran that says that be fair, even if it goes against your own self-interests, the interests of your parents or your relatives. And also goes on to say that be fair, even your enemy, even if your enemy benefits from it. These words can be spoken very easily, but obviously it takes a lot of courage and a lot of emphasis, realization about the fact that, as you rightly said, God is interested in the truth, in justice, in fair play, rather than getting attached to a tradition. Traditions are important, I agree with you, but they have to gel with the truth. You know, about the remark that you made about Pharaoh, I think the reason the Almighty asked uh, the two prophets to speak to him politely was that humans were designed by the Almighty to be good. It's only our own incorrect decisions that we take in life, and then we don't get inclined to correct ourselves, don't decide to repent, that we continue to follow the evil path. But within humans, there's a lot of goodness created by the Almighty. And you never know. You know, I have a feeling that no matter how evil a person, apparently, um, there is still goodness there within humans, unless it is completely um, destroyed, spoiled, degenerated. Uh, you might have a person who has done, in your eyes, a lot of evil, but who knows, deep inside he's regretting. So, you know, that spark that is there within us, that is what needs to be addressed, and that can only be addressed politely. If you are strong in your statements, you are harsh in the way you communicate, it provokes. And the last thing that I would want to comment on what you've said is that I absolutely agree with you. You know, if you were to become an athlete, well, you should have a good physique. If you want to be a wrestler, you should be able to have the ability to wrestle properly and so on. Likewise, if you've chosen for yourself the field, the career of letting others know about the message of God, then you should look at your temperament. I mean, if it's not there, just admit, you know, I can't do this job. I'm not qualified. I'm not good enough. But sadly, what has happened is that I can tell you from where I come from, most people really, they are short-tempered. They use strong language. To them, the best way of approaching religious presentation is to tear the other party apart, you know, just destroy them. Unfortunately,
You know, it's interesting, you know, our brains, you know, we have kind of like layers of brain, right? We have this kind of reptilian layer of brain, which kind of deals with survival and doesn't do much except for, you know, flight, fight, and freeze. That's what it does. And of course, we have, you know, our prefrontal cortex, which, you know, thinking and rationality and all that. So when you go after a person, you know, so when you start yelling at a person, what happens is, the example of Pharaoh, right? Of course, every person has good and bad in them. Every person has good and bad in them. But if you want to get to the bad of a person really quickly, It's very simple. All you have to do is yell at them. Because what happens is it's, their inner alligator, comes out, their inner dragon comes out, and you will find the worst of them very quickly. And on the contrary, if you speak kindly to somebody, and as a teacher, you learn this pretty quickly. If you want to make a kid bad, it's very easy. Just yell at them, right? Just if you yell at them and criticize them all the time, eventually they will become bad, even if they weren't bad before. And if you're kind to them, if you're kind to them and speak to them nicely, they're going to become better students and going to become better people. It's simple as that. You can bring out the good in people, and you can also bring out the bad in people. You could even bring I guess that's a nice way to look at that verse, is to say, you know what? There's a chance that you're going to bring out the good even in Pharaoh, right?
That's right.
Even in him, you could bring out the good. And I think that's a good takeaway. It's a good takeaway. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, we are living in a world. I fail to understand how a typical religious person views the world around him. I mean, does he think that this world has been created by God? Is that his belief? If that's the belief, which obviously is the only proper understanding that we can have, then this diversity has to be celebrated. It's not because I'm not saying it because it's a good statement to make, it's fashionable. It is admiring and appreciating the design of our Creator. And I keep saying that if you are looking down upon others as inferiors, as evil people, simply because they are different from you, then you are not criticizing them. You're criticizing your Creator. He designed this life in a way. I mean, what could have stopped him from making all human beings Jews,
Yeah,
making all of them Christians, making
right,
all of them Muslims? I mean,
right,
he didn't do that. He didn't do that.
right.
So admire his creation and live like you are now living in a world of your Creator, and appreciating others, respecting them, and entering into a decent, proper, polite dialogue.
Yeah. I, well, so you and I have the same, have the same, involved in the same mystery. It's hard to understand when you live in the creation why anybody would think, you know, so the fantasy, I think, the fantasy is that everybody is going to be like me, right? It's always like me. It's never like somebody else. Everybody should be like me, right? So really, everybody should look the same. They should do this. They should wear their pants like this. They should wear their hat like this. They should wear this, right? They should all be the same. Everybody should be the same. It's hard to understand where that fantasy comes from, given the nature of the creation. I mean, I have a big window right here, so I can share my window. Okay, I have a big window right there. Okay, the world is out there. Okay, and what I see outside that window is an incredible variety of creatures. Okay, I'm seeing all sorts of different trees and plants, and I'm seeing all different kinds of minerals and materials, and people are walking by, and each one of them has a different face. There are no two of them that have exactly the same face. So if he made human beings so that we don't have the same face, right, which seems to me like a pretty good statement. I mean, it seems like that seems like a pretty good statement of diversity, then why would we think that he wants us all to be the same? It doesn't make any sense. It completely defies everything about the creation, everything about the world he created. So it's like talking about an artist, you know, and saying like that he really should, because then the question is, are we correcting his work? I mean, we say, I'm sorry, like this out here, we don't like this. We want everything to look the same. So, are we all going to do, there was a guy, I'm not going to say his name, there was a kind of Turkish cult leader who had all of his followers have plastic surgery so they would all have the same face. So is that where is that where we're going? I mean, saying, I'm sorry, creator, but you did this thing of giving us different faces, but it's not working out for us. Really, we should all look alike. So we're going to have plastic surgery, so all of us look exactly the same. It makes that much sense. So
True.
okay, I'm ranting.
No. I think it's a very, very important point, which I think the more we humans, particularly those who are interested in religion to survive and thrive in this world, we must celebrate diversity. That doesn't really mean that we do not talk about our differences. It is important that we talk about them. But that's what the whole purpose of what you said the last time, and what I was trying to say this by afternoon, that we must learn how to communicate in a proper way. There are certain etiquette, certain norms that are important to be respected and observed, which unfortunately are not being properly considered while we communicate with each other. And I think probably it's a good idea that we keep reminding each other about it. There is a lot of temptation amongst humans to draw away from the expected standard norms. Let's not forget that Satan is there within us. There is this evil that always tries to embarrass us. So I think it's always important that we keep getting reminded, because every now and then there is a temptation and tendency to go wrong.
That is absolutely true.
So that we now have the privilege of Dr. Lale back with us, I think we need to have a few words of wisdom from her too.
I don't think I can add much to what's already been said and discussed, really. I thought that was amazing, really beautiful points made. Thank you so much. I would I completely agree with everything you say. The thing is, I believe, I love how you said that there's a goodness within all of us, and it's important to try to connect to that, even if somebody we might think is evil or is behaving in an evil way. If our goal is to try and understand why they're behaving like that, instead of mocking, belittling, putting them down, to boost our own ego or to be right, if actually we are seeking the truth within them and within ourselves to connect to that, then everything would be so different. I think the way we talk to each other, and that truth, I think I would describe it as righteousness and justice. Like you said, justice. I believe that bit of righteousness, that unchanging truth. So I think there is a fundamental essence, like there's a truth which doesn't change, but the way that we choose to express that truth is different, and everybody expresses it in their own unique ways. And sometimes people might express it in a way that appears to be evil, because perhaps they haven't found connected to that part of themselves yet. And but really, I believe that we all really seek that righteousness, that inner righteousness, and we all can connect to each other through that justice, which is to treat each other how we want to be treated. Who can deny that we all want to be treated with respect? Who can deny that we all want to be treated with forgiveness? Who can deny that we want to be treated with mercy and compassion, and be appreciated for our efforts, and to be treated in a gentle, kind manner, to be listened to be loved unconditionally, for who we are and accepted. And who would deny that they want their voice to be heard? They want the ability to be able to speak their truth and to be able to express their truth. You know, there's a part of us, all of us, that is there anybody that can deny that? And if there is, let's talk about it. Let's really try and understand, you know, is there any difference in that humanity within all of us? But the way we express it, so I believe, you know, we've all been, and it's, you know, I'm just stating simple things here, really, that, you know, we've all got different unique blessings, gifts, talents, and likes and dislikes. You know, someone might enjoy music, someone might enjoy playing the violin, someone might enjoy singing, and someone might be blessed with a nice voice to be able to sing, and someone might be blessed with, you know, the ability to draw a nice picture and to express their understanding of truth in that way. And I think one thing that stops us from discovering truth is we're afraid. We're afraid to leave our comfort zone. And that comfort zone we sometimes find in tradition and culture because it feels safe. It feels safe to follow the crowd. It feels safe to, you know, it's seeking truth. The path of truth is a frightening process because it means you have to let go of your current understanding of truth, which is a comfort zone, in order to discover something new. But unless we can actually be prepared to let go of that and accept that there's always something higher than our current understanding, you know, then we can't grow. Then we become stagnant. And then if we always believe that we're the same person as we were yesterday and that we're right and everybody else is wrong, then yeah, we're not going to get anywhere. And I think it's that stops us from speaking and listening to one another. And I'm far from perfect, and may God give me more patience sometimes, you know, when I talk to people, you know, even my children, sometimes it just gets, you know, but I think patience is really, really important. And I pray that God gives me more patience and all of us. Yeah, amen. To seek truth, to speak it, and to follow and to express it in our behavior, and to treat each other how we want to be treated. That's justice. So
Good. That's true.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
all so much. Thank you both so much. Like, this is just, it makes me so happy to all be able to sit here and talk like this, and you're both full of wisdom. May God bless you both, and thank you for sharing all your wisdom with everybody. So
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. Bye.
Alaikum assalam.